Now, US Supreme Court justices have raised serious doubts over the legality of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs in a case then with major implications for the global economy. Liberal, even conservative justices alike sharply questioning the lawyer representing Trump's administration about whether a 1977 law meant for use during national emergencies really gives Trump the power to impose tariffs. But other conservative justices also stressing the inherent authority of the president to deal with foreign countries, suggesting the court could be sharply divided in its outcome. The court itself has a 6-3 conservative majority. Well, let's hear first from the US Treasury Secretary after the day's hearings.
I think it went very well. I think the Solicitor General made a very powerful case for the need for the president to have the IEPA powers. We were at a tipping point in the economy with these trade deficits. That was a problem. And, sometimes the best tariffs are the ones that never get enforced. The president threatened 100% tariffs after the Chinese on October 8th threatened to put export controls on rare earth magnets from Chinese products that had 0.01%. Every camera, every iPhone here would have been subject to a Chinese control. Because he had the ability to threaten the 100% tariff, he was able to successfully execute on foreign policy.
Scott Bessent talking there. Doug Herbert, international affairs commentator, is with me. Doug, it's a huge case, this, isn't it? Vitally important as well for Donald Trump.
And it's huge, not because you're saying it's huge, Stuart. Donald Trump himself has tweeted it on his True Social, basically saying this is the most important case in the history of our country. He said it is literally, and he put life and death in capital letters for our country. So he's clearly, through his own words, investing a lot in this case. Look, it is about a lot more, Stuart, than Trump's tariff policy, a policy that some see as boiling down to the use of tariffs as a blunt weapon to coerce allies around the world, former allies maybe, to do what you want them to do your bidding. The real concerns here are that, it's about really, it goes to the heart of the Constitution's separation of powers. We all know it as the checks and balances between a legislative, executive, judicial. And also on the limits of the executive authority, that is, the chief executive, the President of the United States. And in this case, what is the concern? The concern is that by invoking and citing this law that you mentioned just a few moments earlier, it's called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. That is a mouthful, Stuart. It is a 1977 law, which was derived from a previous similar law, which basically gave the president vast economic powers to regulate economic transactions. I know this is very boring language I'm using. I'm being careful in the way the law was worded. To regulate economic transactions, the law specifically did not ever, not once, mention the word tariffs. The law as designed was meant to give the president the authority to really impose sanctions against countries that posed what was seen by the law as unusual or extraordinary threats, circumstances to America's national security, to its foreign policy, or to its economy. The justices in this case, and remember, yesterday was just the first oral arguments. They heard oral arguments, no ruling. The ruling could come weeks or months from now. The justice's concern is essentially that Donald Trump, by using this particular law to impose these tariffs on dozens of countries across the world, is overstepping his authority, as outlined essentially by the U.S. Constitution. Perhaps the justice who best articulated these concerns is Neil Gorsuch. He is, you said there's a 6-3 conservative majority. It's actually a super conservative majority because 3 of those 6 are Trump-appointed justices. Neil Gorsuch, who is no liberal slouch here, he basically said, he noted that the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, assigns Congress the power to levy taxes, not the U.S. president. It is the Congress's prerogative to greenlight that and to authorize the president to do something like that. And he basically is wary of what he sees as this power grab, if you will, almost. He didn't word it that way, but a handing over, an abdicating of congressional authority or prerogative to Donald Trump, to the executive branch. And here's where he extends his concerns. And this is what was on the mind of other justices as well. If the Congress is ready to just throw up its hands and abdicate its tax levying authority and powers to the chief executive, whether it be Trump or any future president, what's to prohibit the Congress from also abdicating its authority over foreign commerce regulation and authority, or to declare war? In other words, the fear being you will end up with a super president, this superpowered president that has sapped the powers away from the other branches of the U.S. government.
And as you said, and as I said at the top as well, a lot of even Trump's own nominees voicing deep concern about this. So could we be witnessing then a potential kind of turning point in the way that the court tries to rein in or affect presidential power?
It's a really good question, Stuart, and the easy answer is obviously we don't know, right? Whether it's a turning point or not, we don't know what the decision's going to be. But what we do know is that this is a super conservative court that has, not always, but repeatedly had decisions which have ruled in Trump's favor. This may be where the buck stops, in the sense that we have seen the signaling from the justices. We have seen the court, the justices basically saying that they're not perhaps inclined to let the president keep accreting authority from Congress. What's interesting is this is the first of 3 cases that the Supreme Court is going to hear over the next couple of months. There's going to be one in December and then one in January, which also are going to help explore or define the limits of executive authority. That is the president's power. One of them, for instance, in January, one of those upcoming cases is going to be whether Donald Trump has the authority to fire a governor of the Federal Reserve, as he's tried to do. So these are all pressing issues right now. My hunch is that these justices might want to send a signal themselves to say that, no, they're not in Donald Trump's pocket. They're not just there to do the bidding of Donald Trump, even if they are, quote, conservative, and that at least on one of these cases, perhaps this one, they are inclined to check the president. I will end with this, though, Stuart. Donald Trump and his administration have made it clear that they are ready to use other tools at their disposal to make sure that Donald Trump is able to continue enacting his tariff policies. That is, tariff as a trade weapon, as a signature economic policy. There are sections of laws that could allow him to do it. They would be slower. They would not be as quick. They would not be as effective, perhaps. But Donald Trump is not about to throw up his hands and go quietly into the night, whichever way the Supreme Court ultimately rules here.
Just time to ask you about if the justices do strike down his strategy,
Yeah.
what tools would he have to keep his America First
What
agenda
specific
going?
tools? Right, I said he has tools. Well, what tools are they? There's something called there's sections of other laws which allow him, for instance, to impose tariffs sector by sector, say on pharmaceuticals or by computer chips or by steel. It's not the blunt weapon, the tool that he has now in tariffs, which he loves because they're immediate. You impose them, they're there. And it's done. The deed is done. This would be much slower, these sector by sector, or something that gives him the power perhaps for limited duration tariffs. Say, I think 50 days, and then they have to be renewed or given another renewal by Congress. The other tools are not as quick. They are there. The president probably wouldn't want to use them, prefers to use tariffs. And even if the administration doesn't say so publicly, privately, they do not want this decision to go against them. They know that it would have consequences, not just for American policy, but for the ability of the whole Trump administration to enact its agenda going forward, as they see it.